I recently restrained a 3-year-old, and I want to tell you what I did and how I did it in case this might be helpful for you. I'm Dr. Scott Taransky. I'm a professor at Concordia University where I teach the master's level parenting course, going to people who are going to be social workers, counselors, and so on, so they can equip parents to know how to work with their children. This 3-year-old was out of control, and his parents are doing a lot of good things. But sometimes this child has these temper tantrums, and mom had said to me, we don't know what to do with these temper tantrums. And so it's happened to be that this child was with me, and I shut a door that he wanted to go into, and I told him no, he couldn't go in this door, and so he started having this temper tantrum. And so mom says, that's what we see. And I said, would you like me to show you how you might handle this? And mom said, yes. And mom and dad were both there, so I said, okay. So I took the child and I moved him to a break, and I said, you need to sit in a break. Well, he's thrashing around, he's upset. If I let him go, he's going to go tear up things and throw things and run around. And so I sat down with him and I restrained him. I held him in my arms, and I had his arms in my arms so that he was kind of trapped. I don't mean I'm hurting him, but he's in that thrashing around position, but he can't hurt me because I've got his hands, and he's screaming and upset, and for 15 minutes this went on. Now, every once in a while I said something like, when you settle down, I'll release my hold, so that he knew what the next steps were so that he could get out of this when he settled down. He's totally out of control. I held him for 15 minutes, and eventually he started to settle down, and I started to release my hold, and then he starts thrashing around and hitting me, and so I held him again for another 7 minutes until he's screaming again. And I'm looking at his parents. I say, are you guys okay? And they're saying, yeah, this is okay. I think they're thinking it's not going to work. But I held him until after that 7 minutes he was completely settled down, and then I said, okay. And then I let him go. So let me tell you some rules about restraining. First of all, you need to use restraining most of the time. If a child will sit in a break, even at 3 years old, and he's angry and screaming there, that's okay. He's in a break, so that's fine. Leave him there. We'll just use that tool. If, however, he's harming himself, or he's destroying property or harming other people, then we might use a restraining strategy like this one. 4 rules that you need to know. Number 1, you don't hurt the child. And so you might hold him in a way that he's thrashing around, but you don't want him hurting you, but you don't pinch him or squeeze him or anything like that. Number 1, you don't hurt the child. And so you've got to be emotionally prepared for this, because it's emotionally taxing when this takes place sometimes. Second rule is that you only get one sentence. Sometimes parents ramp up their children by continuing to talk to them when they're in this position. No, you only say one thing. When you settle down, I'll release my hold. You're calm. You're gentle but firm with the child. The third thing is you restrain the child until the child is completely settled down. In this case, it was a longer time, 15 minutes and then 7 more minutes. But then he finally calmed down completely. You could tell he just relaxed in my arms, and he was done. And so he got up and he went and hid behind a piece of furniture at first, but then he came out and played with us, and we were fine after that. The fourth thing you want to do is, after he's completely settled down, is you want to put him in a break. That's the best thing to do so he can get used to the break, and we can avoid the restraining. So we don't want to be restraining children for weeks and weeks. Sometimes it takes 1 or 2 weeks to show children that the break is what they really need to do, and there's an easy way and a hard way to get there. But the break is a powerful tool for working with children. I was pleased to hear from parents that they both had tried this restraining technique with this boy, and the episodes are getting less. And so now we're down to 5 minutes, at least when they were talking to me a couple of days later. And I'm sure it will continue on, so they won't have to use restraining anymore. Follow the rules, and you might use this tool as you're trying to help a child to restrain. This is for parents to use with their children. I was just doing it. I wouldn't normally restrain a child. I was just doing it because I was training the parents to do something, and so I did it while they were watching. So it can be a tool to use to help provide parental control when a child lacks self-control. We're on this path for regulating emotions in children. Even a young child, we do this. We don't restrain teenagers, but it has to be a young child that we might try this particular approach.